What is up, guys? Today we have a build sent over by Linda. She's a supporter of the channel and has bought watches in the past. This time around, she wanted to design her own watch. She picked out a white California dial, no date. I think this dial is really clean looking. She paired that with a set of fired blue Breguet hands. So you can already see the look she's going for. It's definitely going to be more classy and upscale. Definitely going to have an elegant feel to it. So I think she did a great job picking out these parts. She paired that with a blue chapter ring to match that Breguet handset. And then she went with a rose gold subcase and a rose gold pilot style bezel, rose gold case back, crown. This is going to be an NH35 build. And she also paired that with a sapphire crystal with blue anti-reflective coating. I think that blue anti-reflective coating is going to play nicely with both the chapter ring and that handset and kind of tie it all together. So, like I said, she did a great job picking out all these parts. I think this build is going to look amazing and I hope she's happy with it. Before we get into the build, I'd like to mention to you guys that if you use my discount code Larry5, I'll leave a link in the description. When you click that link, it'll automatically apply that 5% off to any parts in your cart. If you use my discount code and would like me to build the watch for you, I'd be happy to do so. This is a win-win-win scenario. You win because you save money on your parts, and I build the watch for you for free. Nemoki's wins because they sell more parts, and then I win because I make a commission on those parts. So it's one of those rare times where you actually have a scenario where everybody wins. Of course, if you would like to build your watch yourself, I think that's amazing. I recommend that everybody tries modding. It's a really healthy hobby. And of course, you can still use that discount code and save money on all your parts. So let's go ahead and get into this build and see how it turns out. All right, so when you get a dial from Nemoki's, it'll have dial feet for both the 3 o'clock crown position and the 4 o'clock crown position. Because the case we're using today has a 3 o'clock crown, we're going to go ahead and remove the 4 o'clock dial feet. So to remove those feet, we're just going to go ahead and use a pair of cutters just like this. And we're just going to get as close to the case as we can. And then just cut it off just like that. Then we're going to go ahead and go around to our other side here. And we'll cut this one as well. Now, after you're done cutting, you will still have a little bit left over. So we're going to go ahead and need to file that down. You don't need to apply a ton of force or anything. The dial feet are made out of pretty soft material. So you'll see it files down pretty quickly. So I'll go ahead and finish up doing this one and then we'll go ahead to the other side. So you can see this side is done and that dial foot is completely flush with the dial. So we'll go ahead and flip it around and do the other side now. All right, we got both of those filed down. So we'll go ahead and clean up some, and then we'll get ready to install our dial. I just like to use some air to blow off the dial in our work area some. That way we're not getting little pieces of metal on everything and into our movement. So use some air here, and we're going to go ahead and use some Rodico as well, just to get any little remaining pieces that might be stuck to the dial. So make sure everything's nice and clean. And we'll go ahead and get ready to install our dial. And now we can go ahead and install our dial. And we have our dial fully installed, sitting flush on that movement ring. So now we can go ahead and start installing the hands. Now we can go ahead and install our hour hand, just using some Rodico to help position it over the pinion, and then also to help align it on the 12 o'clock marker. Now we can go ahead and press that on. Now that we have our hour hand set, I'm just double checking to make sure I'm happy with the alignment and that it's centered right in between the middle of that 12 o'clock marker. I'm also going to check from the side profile here just to make sure that we have plenty of spacing, and also to double check that our hand's not crooked or anything. Now that I've checked the alignment, we can go ahead and start installing our minute hand. So we'll go ahead and roll our hour hand to the 6 o'clock position. I just find it easier to align both hands when I have the hour hand set to the 6 o'clock position. So now we can go ahead and install our minute hand. Go ahead and get that centered up with the Rodico and press that on. So now we have our minute hand set. We'll also double check that as well. So we'll go ahead and make sure that we have proper alignment and that it's centered in that 12 o'clock marker. So we'll go ahead and put both hands up here to the 12 o'clock position, and we'll get them centered here and double check our alignment. So get it set right there in the middle on that outer railroad track. And man, those Breakaway hands look so cool. Almost like teardrops or something like that, stacked on top of each other. And they really pop on that white background. So they really look clean and elegant. We'll also check from the side profile as always, just to make sure that we have plenty of hand clearance between the hour and minute hand, and also to make sure they're not crooked or anything. So I'm happy with the spacing here. Everything looks great. And now we can go ahead and start to install our seconds hand. So I'll go ahead and set this down here, and we'll go ahead and get ready to install our seconds hand. So I've zoomed in here a bit so you guys can see that little pinion that the seconds hand goes on. Just go ahead and get that set over top and go ahead and press that on. We're going to make sure it's all the way down and seated on, just so we're confident that our seconds hand isn't going to fall off or anything. So we'll give it one more press, make sure that it's firmly seated onto that pinion. Now that I'm happy with the installment, we can go ahead and check and make sure that the minute hand, the second hand will run over the minute hand on its own power. So I'll go ahead and pop the crown in, and there it goes. It's running on its own. It clears the minute hand by itself with no problem at all. So we have plenty of clearance. So now we can go ahead and flip our movement over here. So we're just going to go ahead and pick up our whole movement holder, and we'll go ahead and pop it out. So we'll pop it out from the underside there, and we'll go ahead and flip it over and reinstall it into the movement holder. That way we can remove our crown. So Just want to be careful when you're putting the movement in upside down. You just don't want to, hit the seconds hand on the movement holder or anything like that. So just make sure it's centered evenly. Now we can go ahead and rotate our rotor around so we can gain access to this little lever here, and we can remove our crown. So we'll pop our crown all the way in. That'll give us access to that little dimple right there. Just push that in. Go ahead and remove our crown. We'll go ahead and remove our movement from our movement holder, and we can go ahead and start on our case. So we'll go ahead and install our crystal gasket here. We'll just go ahead and get that set all the way in. And then we'll go ahead and kind of push it in and let it backfill itself in. Just the easiest way to get a crystal gasket in. Now we can go ahead and put our chapter ring in. There's a little tab on the back side of the chapter ring that aligns with a little groove in the case. So we'll go ahead and make sure that it is fully seated and that it's all the way down. And we'll double check and make sure that our little tab is sitting right in the middle of that groove there that's cut into the case. So we're fully aligned, and we can go ahead and start installing our crystal here. So I get the case set into our crystal press, and then we'll go ahead and get our crystal ready. So I'm always careful when I'm installing a crystal not to have it outside of the wrapper for too long. I want to get it set on the case as fast as possible and not prolong any exposure to dust or anything. So I try to do that part as quickly as possible. And then we'll go ahead and get it centered and press our crystal down. Now that we have our crystal installed and it's looking good, we can go ahead and get ready to install our movement. Before we do that, we do want to clean everything with air just to be, extra careful. You can never be too clean when you're dealing with watch parts. So we'll go ahead and get everything nice clean. And now we can go ahead and mate the two together. So we'll go ahead and flip it over here and push our movement all the way down. Hear a nice positive click there. So our movement is fully installed into the case. We can go ahead and flip this thing over and have a look at it. And it is looking great. I really did think that AR coating on that crystal was going to tie in all the blue elements, but I never really imagined that it would make it look this good. Really completes the look at that watch and, brings out all those other blue elements. So now we can go ahead and, get ready to install our bezel. I'm just having another look just to make sure there's no dust under the crystal or anything like that. So happy with that. So we're going to go ahead and pre-install our case back real quick, just so when I put this on the bezel press, we're not, damaging the movement or exposing the movement to anything. So we'll pre-install our case back real quick, and now we can go ahead and get ready to put this on my bezel press. So here is our bezel. So it does have a bezel gasket, but you don't need to lubricate this because it's a non-rotating bezel. But there is one installed on this anyway. So we'll go ahead and get that set into place, and we'll go ahead and get ready to put it in our press here. So we'll go ahead and get it centered here, and then we're going to go ahead and give it a press. You will hear a positive click when the bezel is fully installed. We'll go ahead and rotate it around just to make sure everything's getting evenly pressed on. And then we'll go ahead and remove it from our press there, and we'll have a little quick look at it from the side profile here and make sure that our bezel is fully seated. Now we can go ahead and move on to our crown. So we'll go ahead and thread our crown onto the stem here. Then we'll go ahead and remove our case back real quick, just to, that way we can see the crown when we're installing it into the movement here. So now we can gain access to that. We're going to make sure that the crown is engaging, and then we'll pop it all the way back in to the running position. We'll grab our calipers here, and we'll get ready to measure the distance between the case and the crown. So we'll go ahead and grab our measurement here. I got 8.16 millimeters. So we'll go ahead and remove our crown real quick. So now we can go ahead and put our stem up against our calipers, and I'll grab a marker real quick so we can mark our spot where we need to cut. So we'll go ahead and make our mark here onto our crown, and then we'll just double check that we've got our mark in the correct spot, and we do. So we'll go ahead and make our cut. So I just grab my cutters and we'll cut right on our mark here, just like this. Give it a cut. And there will be a burr left over, so I use some needle nose pliers and a file just to knock that burr down. When I grab it with needle nose pliers, I'm grabbing the lower portion of that threaded part of the crown, and I'm never grabbing any part that engages with the keyless works. So, that's where you want to grab the crown out when you're filing it. As you can see, the burr is completely gone, and we can go ahead and install our crown back onto our cut stem here. So when the burr is completely removed, it'll thread on with no issues at all. So we'll go ahead and install our crown, and we'll check our fitment. So, we'll double check. If we ever need to cut more, we can always do that. So I like to cut as little as possible. That way, I never cut the crown too short. So we'll go ahead and thread our crown in all the way. Threads in nice and smooth. We'll double check and make sure that it's seated up all the way against the case from all the angles. That way we're maintaining our 200 meters of water resistance. So that looks really good to me. We'll go ahead and unthread the crown here. And yep, great crown action. Nice pop. I love Namoki crowns. They always operate flawlessly. We'll go ahead and check our time setting function here. Set it to 10 and 2. Not only do the Namoki crowns always work great, but all their parts really go together flawlessly, and the fitting quality is always second to none. So we'll just double check our alignment there at 12. Really happy with that. I really like the look of these Breguet hands. So clean and classic. So we'll go ahead and set it back to 10 and 2. Make that official there. Looks great. We'll go ahead and pop our crown back in, and then we'll go ahead and thread it down. Crown threads down nice and smooth. Don't need to back thread it or anything like that. So it goes in nice and clean. Now we can go ahead and remove our crown for the final time, again using that little dimple there, and then we'll go ahead and lubricate our crown gaskets. This is just silicone grease, and it just prolongs the life of those gaskets, reduces the friction that they'll see, and keeps them, moisturized so the rubber doesn't degrade. Now we can go ahead and install our crown for the final time here. Go ahead and make sure it's clicked all the way in. We'll go ahead and thread that down nice and smooth. So really happy with that. And then now we can go ahead and move on to our case back gasket. We're going to do the same thing here. We're going to apply a thin film of silicone grease. This will prolong the life of the case back gasket as well. It does see a decent amount of friction when you tighten down the case back. Not only that, it helps hold it in this little groove here. So when you put a little silicone grease on there, it makes it a little tacky and holds it right down in this little groove. That way it doesn't move around on us and we're getting a good seal. So now we can go ahead and install our case back here. Go ahead and thread that down real quick. Just finger tight for now. I'll just double check everything, and then we'll go ahead and tighten it all the way back down. So I'm really happy with how this build looks. Linda did a great job picking out all these parts. So now that I've just double checked everything, we'll go ahead and tighten our case back down for the final time here. So using our case back tool, I like to use some painter's tape on my case back tool just so I don't scratch the case back up or anything like that when I'm tightening it down, especially on a case like this that has rose gold plating or anything. So we'll get that nice and tight, just like that. So we have definitely 200 meters of water resistance on here, and Linda won't have to worry about getting caught in the rain or doing the dishes. So one thing I do want to show you guys real quick about these Breguet hands, check this out. Look at that counterbalance and how it eclipses that hour hand. That is super satisfying to me. It's little details like that that just make me happy, and it even eclipses that Namoki logo as well. Um, Super satisfying. Little details like that when a watch has those. It's the little things that make the difference there. So here's one last look at the watch. Like I said, Linda did a great job pairing this all together. If you guys would like to do the same, email me timelesst10@gmail.com. And like I said, you can go ahead and use my discount code and I'll build the watch for you. And last but not least, here is a photo that Linda sent me of the completed watch. She paired it up with a lovely blue leather strap and a matching rose gold buckle. So I think this thing looks great. Thanks again for sending it over, Linda. Thanks for everybody who's watched, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.